All right, so you're interested in how the Indian legal system works, right? Well, buckle up, because today we're taking a deep dive into something that might seem small at first, but it's actually hugely important.
Okay, I'm ready.
It's all about Section 5 of the Indian Penal Code.
Ah, the IPC.
So exactly,
Yeah.
Section 5. We've got some really interesting sources that lay out how the IPC basically covers the whole of India, but also how it fits in with other more specific laws. So let's get right to it.
Sounds good.
What stood out to me right away was how Section 5 makes it super clear that the IPC applies everywhere across what one source called pure India,
Yeah.
like no matter which state or union territory you're in.
Right. Basically, if a crime takes place within India's borders, the IPC is like the default starting point legally. It's really fundamental.
Okay, so it's like a nationwide criminal code for the whole country.
Mm.
Makes sense. But then I noticed that our sources also talk about these exceptions,
Oh, yeah?
especially when it comes to things called special laws. What's the deal with that?
That's a really good question. When you think about it, sectors like the military, they need their own specific laws, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
the Army Act, the Navy Act, the Air Force Act, and so on. And that's because they have these unique roles and really strict disciplinary needs. So Section 5 is basically recognizing that and making sure the IPC doesn't accidentally mess with those specialized legal systems, especially when those special laws already have their own ways of handling offenses.
So it's about letting those specific regulations do their thing?
Exactly.
One of the sources even used the example of a soldier to explain this. Can you walk me through that?
Sure. So imagine a soldier refuses to follow a direct order.
Okay.
That would be an offense under the Army Act, right?
Right.
In that case, it's the military justice system that would handle it, not the IPC,
Hmm.
because they operate under their own separate act.
Yeah.
It's all about keeping discipline within the military.
So the military takes care of its own internal matters.
Hmm.
Got it. But what if that same soldier does something completely unrelated to their military duties? Like, let's say they commit theft.
That's where this interplay comes in.
Okay.
So with what we call civil crimes like theft or even murder, which the Army Act doesn't directly address, then the IPC steps in because it acts as that overall criminal law for anything not covered by these more specialized laws.
So that makes it clear. The specialized law basically have the first say in matters that fall under its scope.
All right.
And if it doesn't apply, then the IPC is there as a backup. Our sources also mention police officers and police rules. It sounds kind of like the same principle at work.
Exactly. Like police departments usually have their own set of rules for how officers should act while they're on duty.
Right.
So if something happens that's specifically addressed by those police rules,
Uh-huh.
then those rules would be the main ones used. But if there's an incident that their internal regulations don't cover, then the IPC comes back into play.
Okay, so just to sum this all up, the IPC applies across all of India. But when we're dealing with special laws for certain crimes or professions, then those special laws have priority. And the IPC is there as the general criminal code for everything else. It seems like Section 5 is there to make sure there's no legal confusion or conflict between all these systems.
Absolutely. That's a great way to put it. Section 5 is all about making sure these legal frameworks can work together smoothly without clashing or overlapping all the time.
It really gets you thinking, though, doesn't it?
Hmm.
Why even have both a general criminal code and these super specific laws? Is it about finding a balance between having a law that applies broadly and also needing regulations tailored to very particular situations in a society as complex as India's?
That's a great question to consider.
It really makes you appreciate how carefully this whole system is structured.
It does.
Well, we've just scratched the surface here, but hopefully this has given our listeners a good starting point for understanding Section 5 and how it fits into the bigger picture of Indian law.
Definitely.
So keep those legal minds engaged, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive.
Sounds.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.